Battletech fans, here we are with yet another edition of Before the Fight, and today we are all the way out in Murray, Utah at HASTUR Games, and I can't tell you, we've got a lot of cool stuff planned and ready for you for this one, including our special guest right here, Mr. Byran Young, author of A Question of Survival and Honor's Gauntlet, right here. So we've got that perspective, we've got his master eye there, you know, so we got a lot of cool stuff planned today, don't we, Topher?
I hope so.
Yeah. This was kind of an interesting setup because you had put over the idea for this game to me as, well, let's have a couple of Davian commanders that are just bored during the Third Succession War, and they're going to fight each other in the simulator over a case of really super...
Pallet. We're talking pallet.
Pallet.
Oh, a lot of beer, my friend.
Pallet of super ultra mega rare whiskey.
Timbiqui Dark.
Timbiqui Dark. That's right.
Pallet of Timbiqui Dark.
And you had thrown the idea, well, okay, let's use mechs that are only available to House Davian and only during the Third Succession War. And I'm like, okay, I'm in. I'm totally about that life. And so I started picking the units, and this is... I feel terrible about this, but it's the truth. You came back at me with a Tuck Davian force, and I was like, and now I know how everybody else felt.
I'm afraid of myself.
Because... You came at me with almost a copy of what I used out in Fayetteville, and that's what I had told you. I was like, I too have done the how many PPCs can I get on the board in one lance gimmick, and I'll tell you how that shakes out. Very badly for the person on the other end. So, and you were like, oh no, you'll steamroll me. No. Believe me, this is gnarly. And I tried to recalculate it, recafubulate it, do all that kind of stuff, right? And then you and I both came up with the idea, just bang, right on the money, one right after the other. Why don't we play a mirror match? And I was like, that's such a cool idea, because I've never done a mirror match before. There's only one game we played, which is Christmas, where the battle values were dead on, even. And in this case, it would be the same thing. So I'm like, oh yes, I love this kind of thing. So tell me, where did this idea come from for you?
For the Timbiqui Dark concept?
Yeah, the whole gimmick for the scenario.
Well, it starts with the fact that I love beer.
See, I didn't know it was beer. I thought it was like whiskey.
Oh, no, it's a beer. It's a classic beer, baby.
Oh, okay.
Probably the loss of Timbiqui represents one of House Steiner's greatest losses in the Ill Clan era.
All right.
Yes. Then it was just the fact that, you and I both are big Davion fans. It's the roots of our fandom. And I wanted to kind of have some way to represent and honor that in a Davion against Davion match. And it just kind of clicked all of a sudden. It was like, what's a way that two Davion commanders could face each other? Oh, in the simulator over a pallet of beer. Like, let's make it happen. So,
and it's such a cool idea, because normally in a fight like this, the guys would be like, okay, I've lost a couple of mechs, I need to back off, because they're trying to save their hardware. Yep. But in a simulator, you got nothing to worry about. It's just, we'll fight to the last if that's what it takes. Yep. And that's not usually a thing. Yep. Usually most folks will back off after a certain number of losses, because, they're trying to play like an actual mech warrior, which I appreciate all the way. But in this case, a simulator, no, just go nuts. So let me throw to you, Bryan. You said you just got the opportunity at Gen Con to play against the Awesome, and you've seen some of these other things. What do you think about these forces?
I think they're really terrific, actually. The Awesome is something that was formidable, but in the game I played recently, I was playing, Mike Stackpole was my playing partner, and his Morgan Kell eliminated with pretty much one shot. It was not even close. But if you're going to go down in a tournament against Mike Stackpole, playing Morgan Kell and his archer is probably the way to go.
Yeah.
I've written a Warhammer, and that was the PPCs on the Warhammer are always really, really nasty.
Yep.
And it feels well-rounded against each other. And since they're mirror forces, I can't even imagine how you're going to try to snake an advantage, especially with the terrain seeming pretty level.
Yeah, I was going to say Drake put a lot of level 1 hills on here, so you'll have a lot of opportunity to get that defilade, get that partial cover action going. So yeah, he made a bunch of level 1 terrain here, and I'm like, that's cool, because I love that kind of thing. And it gives you the opportunity to kind of play tactically, as opposed to just what Bishop Steiner always says, run to the middle and shoot, But speaking of what you were just saying there, I really feel like, and this is kind of a badge on you, is that all of these forces were just really evocative of the era, really evocative of that classic Battletech feel. You've got some just classic machines on the table here, the Marauder, the Warhammer, the Griffin, the Awesome. Like, these are just venerated machines that everybody knows, everybody loves, and everybody that has played for any great length of time has sat down inside at some point or other and has some kind of fond memories of. So I think you're bang on the money there, but that was a really good idea on your part.
Whoa.
So let me ask you this. I'm not asking you to reveal your strategy to me. I never want that. But what are you thinking? How are you feeling going in? You can at least tell me that without revealing what you're going to do.
I think that I'm going to approach this battlefield like I want to just waltz in like a beautiful disco ball and just,
Disco Death Show?
Yeah, disco death show. We'll see how it goes, I mean, I feel like you're probably going to steamroll me, but I also feel like I'm going to try to make it an interesting and fun steamroll is my goal.
See, that was the interesting thing you'd said, is when we came up with the idea to do Mirror, you were like, you're still going to kick my butt. And I'm like, whoa.
I'm just honoring your tactical acumen.
I appreciate that. That's where it's good. I and you can tell me if you think I'm wrong. I feel like that's what it's going to come down to, don't you think?
It could be. That game that Stackpole and I were in at Gen Con, I think we were very tactically sound, but the dice just did not favor us. Right?
Yep.
So it came down to, there was a couple of times where I had to drop on another mech, and I was literally behind them, and their back was showing to me, and I missed everything at short range, and it was like...
I've done that. Oh, God.
It's sometimes, a tactical advantage only gets you so far if the dice aren't in your favor.
Yep. I mean, I've lost more games than I could care to recount to supernaturally bad dice rolls. But it's okay. I'm going to play it to the bone. The thing that I think it's going to come down to is just... Can I do what I'm used to doing, which is picking my targets, figuring out what my lanes are? Because these guys are all big brawlers. They've got the armor, they've got the heat sinks, they've got, in some cases, the maneuverability, like the Griffin has. But I feel like it's just going to come to... You said you don't play too many games, right? That may be the only advantage I get here, folks. I'm telling you. He's confident in me, and I appreciate that, but...
Boost your friends, baby.
Build them up. I just know from experience that no matter how many years of experience you have, or how many mechs that you've piloted, whatever it is, that when you're down to the wire and you've got the exact same things going on, there's only so far that's going to get you. And the real gimmick there is figuring out, okay, well, where does that lie? Where's the line, and how close can I get to it while riding it without getting my butt kicked? But let's move on from that. I want to talk to you just a little bit. Okay. So you had a really cool story about how you got involved in writing. So I want to hear that story.
So how I got involved in writing Battletech was I'm friends with Mike Stackpole.
Nice.
And we were doing a convention together, and Catalyst was there, and I got introduced to the Catalyst crew and said, hey, I'd really like to write some Shadowrun. And they're like, cool, but what about Battletech?
Right.
And I was like, well, I played the video games when I was a kid. I haven't played a lot, but tell me what to read, and I'll start getting into it. And I spent 2 years reading Battletech and pitching stories, and every time I'd pitch a story, they'd be like, no, we're pulling the trigger on something else. Go read all this.
Of course.
Until finally there was a summit that happened with some of the writers, and it was in the lead up to the Hour of the Wolf.
Okay.
And the release of that, and Mike was there, and they were filling out the schedule of books they were going to do. And I get a call from Mike afterward, and he's like, hey, so I put you in on the schedule for a book, 3 books actually, and I'd been studying Mercenaries at this point,
Sure.
because he and I were going to work on some stuff with the Kellhound Splinter groups.
Okay.
And he's like, so how much do you know about the Jade Falcons? And I'm like, well, you told me to study Mercenaries.
Right?
And so that was when this book came about, Honor's Gauntlet. This is in the lead up to the Hour of the Wolf and the Battle for Terra.
Right on.
And
I like that. Is that Jade Hawk on the front?
It's a Shrike.
Shrike, okay.
Yeah, it's a Shrike. That is Toronado. That's Archer Pride's Toronado, Shrike Toronado.
Nice.
And so I was like, cool, I can read up on the Jade Falcons. How long do I have? And he's like, the book is due in 2 months. So,
whoops.
Yeah, so I had to get up on the Jade Falcons really quickly.
Sure.
And I had a lot of fun with that book. And then when they came to me with this book, that's a Gyrfalcon.
Yep.
And an Ursus 2. And that's...
I know my buddy Bear will like the Ursus on the cover.
Yeah, no, I got to fill out a lot of the Ghost Bear mythology, like what's going on with their Sibcos and stuff like that. I got to build all the vocabulary, which surprisingly had never been done before. But right. I've done a whole bunch of stuff in Battletech since this book, and this came out in 2019.
Yeah,
and it was it's been a great experience, and I've got more coming. I've got the novella, and I got to write a whole bunch of the pilot cards in the Alpha Strike box set that's coming up, and Mike and I have a whole bunch of stuff cooking in the world of the Kellhounds. So
I don't care what anybody says. I love the Kellhounds.
Well, and I think it's cool because, like we were talking about, I think that's really only the second official novel that centers on the Ghost Bears in publication history so far. So it's kind of a nice.
When I asked them, like, send me all the Ghost Bears stuff, and I got, like, one book.
Roll of Honor, right?
Yeah, it was, there was a lot of really cool, interesting stuff in there about the Ghost Bears, but so much of it was irrelevant because it happened so far before what's going on in the Racelhead Dominion now.
Yeah.
So the political situation's changed a lot for the Ghost Bears over that. I think there's about a 30-year gap between when that book happens and this one. It might even be more than that. But, yeah, so it was interesting to bring them into a new era, reintroduce them and the whole culture of Racelhead, and most of the book happens in Racelhead, so...
Well, our friend Luke is a huge Ghost Bear fan.
Yeah, and I know a guy back home. super pumped about that. And not only have you written Battletech, but you've done like Doctor Who, and you've done Robotech, and haven't you done Star Wars? That's what it was an S, and I wasn't sure if it was Star Wars or Shadowrun.
Both, actually. So I've got a Shadowrun story coming out.
Love Shadowrun.
I've got a Shadowrun story coming out at the end of the month. Worked a lot in Star Wars. I co-wrote the Robotech role-playing game.
Oh, okay.
So nice. I got to write some short stories in the Robotech universe and a whole bunch of first-person stories in there that were a lot of fun. And yeah, I just really like this stuff I really enjoyed as a kid, and so grateful I get to like write it as a job.
Yeah,
right? Amazing. That's like, kid in a candy store.
Yeah.
So, talking about Robotech, and that was kind of what you grew up with, we got a couple of mechs on the table here that are very much Robotech. Yeah. You've got your Glaug heavy officer pod with the Marauder, and the Destroid Tomahawk over there. I believe that's what that's called, the Warhammer. Yep. And the Griffin was a Fang of the Sun Dugram mech. That was the Soltic H8 round facer. But that was the only mecha show I ever watched. That's how I know it. I used to say to anime fans all the time, yeah, I watch some anime, but it's so obscure you'll never have heard of it. And they always go, oh, really? Oh, I bet you I've heard of it. Tell me what it is. And I'll go, Fang of the Sun Dugram. And they always go, oh. Yeah, I've never heard of that.
So hopefully they add it to their list.
Yes, if you haven't watched it, if you like political intrigue and all that stuff, it's fantastic.
I'm a huge nerd for like the real world stuff behind like what was going on with the designs of mechs and stuff.
Sure.
And absolutely, the Destroids had some of the coolest moments in Battletech, but I got to write a Warhammer in Honor's Gauntlet, and seeing them on the table is always fun. I tend to buy mechs that I'm writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and having mechs on the table helps a lot, and seeing these, I want to play.
Right?
Visualize the action.
You can't not want to.
Yeah.
Oh, there he goes.
Speaking of action.
Godzilla! So...
That's my strategy. I just
yeah, there you go. Get rid of that mech. Yes, what mech? I don't know what you're talking about. So it's interesting because you had put out a call on the local Discord, right? There's a big gaming group here, so as what I understand, and I love coming into these spots where there's a bunch of Battletech players. I still feel, just like I did at the very beginning, that the players are what makes this game great. It's a nice system, one of the best, don't get me wrong, but without the story of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, this game wouldn't be quite as flavorful as what it is. So you're talking about bringing a bunch of people, and I thought it was cool because I was like, we've never had a gallery before. If you're like golf, like golf clap.
I really like that. You get a headshot and just a really polite I posted in both the Utah Battletech Facebook group and their Discord page, and then kind of second guessed myself because I was like, maybe I should check with Tuck first before I put the word out. But then did it, and it was awesome because I had no idea that Bryan here's a local. Like it was just me putting the word out in the Utah channels, and then we get this response from someone who's like, hey, I actually write. Do you think he'd want to write?
Oh, sure.
You want to write or show up? So it's really cool, and it's one of those things that I love is just how connected the group is, and the fandom, and the creators, and shout out to our friend Bishop, for example.
Hey, Bishop Steiner, Daddy.
Where you can be buddies with the people that create it with, and they, you kind of feed off each other.
Sure,
to create the whole thing. And that's something that's really beautiful about this game.
And you've said you've had that same experience, right? You haven't been playing for long though. Have you?
No.
Okay.
I mean, as I started writing, I was getting into the game. The Catalyst guys had organized some local groups for me to play in, and then the pandemic hit.
Right.
So my first time playing the tabletop game with actual people, other than trying to convince my son to play on my computer, was actually at Gen Con in that Masters of Minions tournament, and it was really fun, especially with Mike Stack.
Right, I was going to say, didn't you say he was your first, he broke you in?
Yeah.
That's a great way to mentor into something.
How cool is that, right?
And for those of you familiar with my Fox Patrol stories and Shrapnel, I was playing with 2 Fox Patrol mechs, a Kit Fox, and a Quick Draw. And there was a player we were really worried about because, for one, the other team couldn't hit Morgan Kell.
Sure.
They couldn't, and we started joking that this was a Phantom mech, right? They couldn't hit him at all, and then when Mike finally hit, he took down an Awesome in, 1 battery of hits, and he got, 3 criticals, and 2 of them were headshots, and the player who was there was so gung-ho about playing that we both felt awful. We're both signing books and we're really sorry, please do that, but no, I mean, he had a great time. And what kind of story is that? I got blown away by Morgan Kell with a headshot by Mike Stack.
Right?
Played by Mike
I should
Stack.
die so lucky.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, no joke. I'd be okay to retire after that.
So, I mean, every experience, and sometimes, the dice don't favor you. I was having a harder time with the dice than Mike was.
Sure.
And then the dice just sort of turned on both Mike and I, and we lost miserably. But we put up a hell of a fight.
Yeah.
But it was fun for everybody, even when we were losing.
Sure.
That's the beauty of it, right?
And that's Battletech.
That's what I'm planning on, even when you're kicking my butt. Is it's going to be fun for everybody.
Well, did you slip the way to dice it over?
Yeah, I was going to say, you had to grease the palms
really
before you
subtle.
came in.
I was really quiet.
Yeah.
And not only did we have Bryan come on in because of this Discord post, we also you'll see him on After the Action when the episode actually airs. We got Cole Walker in the house, Rocket Custom Painting and Miniatures. He does a lot of great work. So we've got a bunch of people in the house just kind of under one tent for this game, and that is something I've really wanted to do for a long time, is get a bunch of talented people on one card.
It's exciting.
And I like to joke, as we say in wrestling, we've kind of got a super card here. We've got me, and then we've got Bryan, we've got Cole, we've got you, and it's season 4, so we got 4 guys. Hey, how about that? And I really just love collaborating with all the different creative artists and stuff like that. To see how creative they get inspires the hell out of me to just go and make weird stuff. And I don't care, people will be like, oh, that's cringe. Good. It's supposed to be. And so thank you both, for coming. You can't see Cole, he's off to the side here. You'll see him later. But thank you both for coming. I appreciate that. It does a lot of good to my heart. So thank you both for coming.
Maybe we got coming in the future some Fox Patrol canonized camo figures painted by. So,
we'll see you. No, Daddy. Well, all right, folks, we will see you out on the battlefield here very shortly. Like I say, I don't know what the name of this episode is yet. We're going to figure that part out probably while I'm on the road somewhere. But it's going to be a fantastic game. And dare I say, this time, it really does work, folks. It's going to be, what? Awesome! Yeah, baby! We'll see you guys very soon. Thank you both for showing up. Appreciate you.
Be sure to smash our like button and subscribe to our channel.
Crowdfunding is when lots of people give you small amounts of money to help your passion project come to life.